Welcome into Stacking the Box. I am Sterling Holmes, joined by Tommy Jaggi as we talk Tush Push. We talk flag football now that NFL players are allowed to play in it, and Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson, and the excitement that exudes from those guys as we get ready for the 2028 Olympics. Tommy, how are you?
I'm doing great today. Glad to see that some of the NFL rules stayed the same as before, because that's kind of what I was hoping for. We got the ultimate outcome here, I think.
Yeah, we'll start there, Tommy, because I'm with you. I've been swayed multiple times in this debate of the Tush Push in particular. I was a fan of it, then I was not a fan of it, especially with Washington playoff game against the Eagles. I thought, okay, this is starting to get ridiculous. This is dumb. What more can a defense do? And then originally I was like, okay, you know what? Fine. It's such a minuscule part of the game. Over the past 3 seasons, the Eagles have ran that play 108 times. That breaks down to about 2 times a game. Heck, that could be on one possession, the only times they run it. I started to break down the numbers between a QB sneak versus the Tush Push. The numbers are very similar. In the Carson Wentz era, the Eagles were 40 of 46 on QB sneaks prior to the Tush Push. That's 87%. This year, the Eagles and Bills, who, by the way, the Bills were actually more effective in the regular season than the Eagles, their first down percentage was 87%, so the exact damn same thing. I think people get so much in an uproar because it looks ugly. It's not the same, but they've talked about how if it causes injuries, they'll ban it. But we're still talking about the potential for injuries, not actual injuries. And by the way, I don't know if they know this. This is football. Injuries happen in football. I'm actually glad that the Tush Push is going to be still in the NFL.
Yeah, 100%. This is something that I was hoping for, because you get a play like this. If you're the Eagles, it's like you came up with something. Nick Sirianni, whatever you think of him as a coach, he kind of reinvented the wheel here. And just because you don't know how to stop it doesn't mean that it should be banned. You need to figure out a way to stop it. If that's getting more big guys in the field, whatever you got to do. But like you said, the success rate of QB sneaks in general in a 4th and 1 situation is already extraordinarily high. And that's across the league. You can look at the stats that Warren Sharp put out there. I think he said 84% success rate. And so everybody has their variation of their QB sneak. This happens to be the Eagles. And I don't think that the NFL should make a rule change just because defenses have a hard time putting a stop to it. Maybe you need guys on the other side to counter what they're doing.
Yeah. Glad that it didn't pass. It was very close, though, 22-10. 24 votes would have passed this ban through, so 2 more votes away. Here are the teams that voted against the proposal, a.k.a. teams that were on the Eagles side. You have the Eagles, you have the Ravens, you have the Browns, you have the Lions, you have the Jags, the Dolphins, Patriots, Saints, Jets, Titans. We'll start here. Any team on this list or not on this list that really surprised you?
Yeah, obviously, as a Steelers fan, I'd like to see the Steelers on that list, siding on the side of the right there. But not really surprised by the other names on there. I could have seen them going anyway. I could have seen all the AFC East rivals on that list as well, just because they're the ones that have to deal with it more than anybody else.
I guess for me, the team that's most surprised, I think there's 2. One, the Bills. The Bills were the team that used this the second most, and the fact that they were okay with this being banned and on the banned side, that is shocking to me, because it really had been over the past 3 years. It was the Eagles 108 times, I think it was, the Bills like 55 times, and then the Bears 16. Okay? If you're the Bills, why? You also had an advantage. You were very effective with this in the regular season. Is it because you got your ass kicked in the postseason when you try to run this because you always ran left and the Chiefs were able to pick up on this? I'm just, I guess, a little perplexed at why the Bills were not on the Eagles side in this. And then again, the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs, it's a little surprising that they were in favor of banning it, because that comes off as soft to me. It comes off as a little soft and maybe a little salty, and that's probably not why they did that. But that, to me, is the way it comes off. You get your ass kicked in the Super Bowl, and a rule change is proposed, and you think it might hurt the Eagles, so you side with the rest of the NFL. I thought that was a little soft. Yeah, that was surprising. And again, the Chiefs are a team that have beaten the Eagles in this Super Bowl when they used the Tush Push. They lost when the tush push wasn't even a factor because let's be real, when you lose by 40, it doesn't really matter. I don't know. I guess the Bills and the Chiefs to me were the two most surprising teams that were not on that list.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I don't understand other than like the resentment factor why Kansas City would, and for Buffalo, it's like maybe they think that Josh Allen is just good enough by himself. He doesn't need that extra little shove. He'll get the first down yardage needed anyway. But I think when it's all said and done, it's like, just go for it. Just go for it on 4th and 1. And if you are a competent team with a decent offensive line and a good offensive mind, you're going to have a high success rate in these situations, whether you run the tush push or not. I think that that's the bottom line here. And from the research that I've seen as well, it's like, we shouldn't get so hung up on the tush push. It's more about Nick Sirianni and the Eagles' overall aggressiveness that makes them partly what makes them a good football team.
Yeah. And again, the Chiefs, the only argument I think they have is, well, they don't even run QB sneaks as is because of Mahomes' kneecap falling out of place that one time. So for them, they're just sitting here going, we don't care either way. Might as well, if it hurts 31 of their franchises, especially this one particular one, why not? I just, again, think it's a little soft personally. And I feel like I can say that. I'm a KC guy. I'm allowed to say that. Yeah. I'm almost always siding with the Chiefs. This is one where I disagree with them. Sean, producer, I like this one. Weird that the Colts didn't side with the Eagles in this one. Head coach is former Eagles OC Shane Steichen. Good call. It's a good call.
Maybe he'd rather run RPO on 4th and short. I don't know.
I don't understand people that say this isn't a football play because this was like the origins of football. This goes back to the origins of the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. Like, this was football. There was a period of time where you couldn't do this. You couldn't push a guy from behind. 05, they had a little bit of a change in the rule. It was a 3-second rule. Then they realized 3 seconds was very hard to try and account for. So then again, last year, they basically took it out. You can push. And I'm glad. You know what? I'm glad because the Eagles, as you mentioned, they have an advantage here that 31 other teams can do this. They just don't do it as well as the Eagles. And I also look back, tough to find, but Tom Brady had a 91.1% QB sneak success rate. That was in up to 2017. I don't know what happened the last few seasons. I couldn't find the research for that, but 2017, 91.1%. That's even better than the vaunted tush push. All right, Tommy, let's get into it because flag football happening in the Olympics 2028 here in the United States of America. You can't play real football because that's just unfair. Come on now. That's just Australia could maybe do a little bit with rugby, but end of the day, they'd get crushed and they'd come in second place. I know you have Canadian Football League and you have some other leagues here and there. Yeah, at one point you had NFL Europa. I get that, but it would be unfair. So they're doing this, the next best thing, flag football. First and foremost, what was your takeaway of allowing NFL players to play?
Well, when I saw it, I really didn't know how this vote was going to go. I mean, we talk about the NFL owners looking at this and saying, my players could pop an ACL, but rupture an Achilles, whatever it is. It's like, are you going to allow, and we still don't know, like, are you going to allow your superstars, your $100 million players to participate in this league? Or is it going to end up being more guys? It's like, all right, you're a little bit more expendable and we're okay with that. They don't have that say really anymore. Now that they've approved, it's kind of up to the players to kind of go that route. And so it's just interesting. It's so interesting because we've never seen anything like this before. And like you said, I mean, the United States has such a leg up on the competition. You could throw like 10 Ohio State players out there. They'd probably be able to go against the rest of what the world has to offer because this is a football country. But I'm really intrigued by the whole idea, even if it ends up being a bloodbath.
Yeah, and so what it comes down to, some of the rules that I think protect the teams or the owners or the head coaches is one player from each team. So, for example, if you are the Chiefs, you wouldn't be able to have Patrick and Rashee Rice. You could have one. The caveat is if you're the Eagles, for example, you could have Saquon, and then you could have Jordan Mailata. Again, I'm just saying that because you wouldn't have an offensive lineman necessarily, but you could have him play for Australia if you wanted to, because you can have also international player. Little different. I don't necessarily understand why, outside of protecting the team and owner, why you couldn't have multiple players, multiple guys. There are insurance policies in place. So they talked about how they're going to have to buy insurance policies for the teams for when these guys go out there and play. I I think head coaches are the ones, kind of as you mentioned, most who can't be the happiest about this. The reason being is it starts to coincide with OTAs and the start of training camp, so guys might miss the start of it. But overall, you hear the excitement from the players, and Aaron Jones talking about how if you're not in the military, this is something you can do to try and get a medal for your country. Justin Jefferson talking about how growing up as a kid watching track and field, he always wanted to get a gold medal for the United States of America. Like, I think this is badass that all of these guys coming together, all for the United States, all for USA, baby. I'm a huge fan of the players wanting to do this.
Yeah, I agree. I love their motivation when it comes to this. I do understand where the NFL execs are coming from, though. And you listen to like what John Harbaugh had to say about it, just the sheer fear and terror of having a guy like Lamar Jackson step out there and potentially suffer a injury that would cause him to miss the full 2028 NFL season. So you don't want to see that from players, but obviously everybody is going to be wanting to see the league get their best combination of players out there and really see what these other countries have to offer.
So what we're going to do is we are going to build our perfect U.S. Olympic flag football roster. So we will be using NFL players. I know there's going to be some people out there who are huge flag football guys and gals who are saying, well, what about those people? What are the people who play flag football at the highest level? I have a hard time seeing them making the team, realistically. And maybe they do. Maybe the United States just goes with a few of those guys, or maybe they're the coaches. But I can't imagine you see those guys and then you see an NFL athlete and say, you know what? No, we want that guy. I know if they did it right now without any practice, any rule changes, sure, the flag football team might win. You let Lamar Jackson get a week. You let, Brock Bowers or Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson have a little time to understand all the rules of flag football. I have a hard time believing they wouldn't be about the best in that. So we are going to use NFL players. I guess before we do that, question for you. Do you think there's anyone who's going to make the roster who's not in the NFL, or do you think it's all going to be NFL players?
I don't. I would be surprised, especially if they give them at least a little bit of time to practice. To me, Sterling, that would be like saying, all right, we're going to take a group of NFL players and we're going to play them in Arena League football, and we're going to give them a couple weeks to practice. They're going to smash any Arena League team. And so it's the same for flag football. Like, they're just the best in the world at what they do. And so I would be shocked if anybody outside of that circle gets an opportunity.
So then we are on the same page. Here are the flag football rules according to the Olympic website. 10 players on the roster, 5 players on the field for each team. Tommy and I were laughing before the show. We thought we were assumed it was 7. Like when I played flag football in college for the fraternity, it was 7. It was 7 on 7. It's 5. So 10 on a roster, 5 players on the field for each team. Games are played on a 70 by 25-yard field. There are 2 20-minute halves with a 2-minute warning in each. Each team starts at its own 5-yard line and has 4 downs to reach midfield. If they make it, they get another 4 downs to score a touchdown. Teams are able to go for 1 extra point from the 5-yard line or 2 points from the 10-yard line. No running plays within 5 yards of the end zone. So 2004 Mike Vick on Madden, sorry, you're getting nerfed. Can't do that in this situation. Any of the rules that you like, anything that surprised you, anything that you like about them?
No, I'm pretty familiar with most of the rules that they laid out there. But yeah, it was just really the 5-on-5 thing. And that's a lot of open field. I know you're half the width now. I think the width of a normal field is like 53.3 yards wide. And so you're narrowing it a little bit. But I think that's pretty straightforward rules overall.
Yeah, I thought so too. Pretty straightforward. So let's get to the guys who we think will make the roster, or at least guys that we want to make the roster. I think quarterback is the most obvious one. A lot of guys you could choose from. You could go Patrick Mahomes. You could go Josh Allen. You could go Jalen Hurts. But I think the obvious one is Lamar Jackson, right?
It's Lamar. If you're blitzed and you're allowed to run, who better to do it than Lamar Jackson? Look, I know he's going to be 31 years old by the time that the 2028 Olympics roll around. I considered Jaden Daniels for this because of his youth and obvious rushing ability already. Offensive Rookie of the Year. But Lamar is just such an easy pick. He is the best running quarterback of all time. He is so slippery, so elusive in open space. And he can buy as much time as he wants. He's a mastermind at that. I think that's the easy choice at quarterback.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Kyler Murray, Anthony Richardson could even be fun because he can run, although he might take himself out because he gets too tired.
And Murray wouldn't have to worry about looking over the offensive line, so he's got that going for him.
Wait, now we're onto something. If you're not looking for the offensive line, Kyler Murray might be the guy.
Maybe. He's got a lot of those same traits too. So
that's fun. That's a fun one. Yeah, I guess if it's Kyler, I wouldn't be upset. But yeah, I think Lamar is the guy I'm tabbing as QB1. Wide receivers. Where are you looking at wide receivers?
So I've got 3 here, and I think that you could have had a number of combinations here. There's some good players that I left off the list, like CeeDee Lamb, and who I think could just tear everybody up from the slot like he does in the NFL. But I've got Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Travis Hunter. And the reason I have those 3 is just because, I mean, Jefferson and Chase are, in my opinion, the 2 best receivers in the league. Hunter can play both ways. I need corners. I need guys that can run both sides of the football. And these guys are going to get tired. As good a shape as they're in, there's a lot of running in flag football, a lot of open field, and you only have 10 guys, so you can sub out a few at a time. But give me a guy that can play both ways, even though he hasn't played a snap in the NFL. He's the best prospect I've ever graded in college football. I'll take the guy that I at least trust his cornerback skills, trust his ball skills, and then give me the 2 best receivers in the league.
Yeah, I think Travis Hunter is a really interesting one for the exact situation you brought up. He can play both sides, both corner and wide receiver. You're right. He hasn't done the NFL level, but what we saw at the college level leads me to believe that he could get it done in this situation and scenario, and I like the dual ability. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think I would say Travis Hunter as well. Again, surprising. It's not necessarily even an NFL guy yet. Justin Jefferson, yes. Jamar's interesting. I like the thought process, and he probably is a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL right now. He's also just so strong,
I get what
more so than shifty. And I don't know if that matters as much because you're not running through guys. I would still almost go Tyreek Hill here.
Okay.
I know he's older.
Yeah.
I get he's older, but I don't know if there's anyone shiftier. And I think that's what I would look for is shiftiness. I think Jamar is better than Tyreek Hill at this point of their careers, but who's shiftier than Hill even at Tyreek's age?
In his mid-30s, he's still going to be shifty as anybody in the league, and so I could totally get behind that as well. Maybe the best of the group still. I don't know. He doesn't seem to slow down. So
yeah, I'm trying to think of who else could be a really good. Like AJ Brown's good, but he's also a really big guy, and you're not using your size as much. You do a little bit once you get into the red zone, but it really comes down to who has the quickest 10-yard splits. 40-yard dash, not as important. You want that quick 10.
Here's a guy.
That's almost
here's a guy, Sterling, that didn't test particularly well, but man, is he elusive in open space. And that's Zay Flowers. I think he would kill it in flag football too.
Yeah, that's a good call. Amon-Ra St. Brown says, Sean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, because he's very shifty. Not the most maybe elusive guy down the field, but in the slot, good luck, going with him, and he won't drop the ball. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is also a very interesting one. Him, Puka Nacua, that kind of build, very, very intriguing. Running backs, a lot of guys you can go for here. You said Saquon, sure. You say CMC, okay, great pass catcher. Obviously, pass catching first and foremost is going to be part of this. Bijan Robinson you could roll with. Who you going with?
So this one was really interesting, and I don't necessarily have the best running back in the league, but I factored in age, and I factored in the environment that we're looking at here now. I did not include Saquon or Derrick Henry, and Henry for more obvious reasons because he's more of the big bruiser and long strider. But Saquon is going to be older at that point. I went with just one running back because of the rules that we just recently talked about. You can't even run near the goal line anyway. I went with Jahmyr Gibbs. Give me the fastest, most explosive home run hitting running back in the league. This is flag. You're not going to be running the football that much anyway. Have Gibbs running a Texas route out of the background and see which linebacker, whoever they put on him to see if they can cover him when he's got open field to work with, can go any direction. Like that has the threat to be the best flag running back, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think him or Bijan Robinson. I didn't know which one to go with. Also, James Cook, surprisingly really
Yeah.
good receiver as well. Again, not quite as elusive as those two guys. Something to keep in mind, though, and I guess you wouldn't even necessarily have to have a running back if you didn't want one. You could just have another wide receiver because, again, little different rules.
Yeah.
And Derrick Henry, as great as he is, I don't see it making a lot of sense in flag. And plus, you're right. It's another 4 years down the road. Youth will play.
If this was rugby, Henry would take the cake.
Yes. Tight end. Do you have any? Does that matter?
So, I briefly considered putting a tight end on here, and the one that I would have went with would have been Brock Bowers. He's a nightmare after the catch. But then I figured, I'm like, all right, because you can't use any break tackle ability, his yak stuff is awesome, but you're not running through guys, you're running around them. It just made more sense to go with another wide receiver or cornerback in this instance. So I grabbed an extra defensive back and I skipped a tight end.
It makes sense. It's tough because will there be any DNs, edge rushers, even any linebackers? Because is it all speed, or do you still want a little bit of that size speed combo? Like Micah Parsons, for example. Yeah, he's an edge rusher / outside linebacker, but he has the speed, the 10-yard split. He has the athleticism, and that size makes it difficult to even get a pass off. I mean, it is a little different if you see a 6'2", whatever his size is, 240, 250 guy coming at you versus a 5'11", 190. I mean, that is a difference when you're in the pocket, even if it is flag football. Did you have a linebacker, a defensive lineman, anything like that on your team?
Yeah, I have two actually. And this is where I differ a little bit. So from my experience playing flag football, rush linebacker, super important. Like you've got to have guys that are constantly getting after the quarterback. You can't give them all day to pass back there. So they start 7 yards away. They get a free rush. Give me the guys who are just the best in open space. Now, these don't have to be edge rushers. These are not true edge guys. You're not going up against a blocker. You need to be a fantastic run and chase guy with terrific closing speed. And so the first one that I have is Micah Parsons. So if you want to use him off offense, they can call him your tight end if you want to. But defensively, he's going to be my guy getting after the quarterback. And to spell him of a break, because it is so important, you can't have Micah going the full game, going 20 minutes without that break, and another 20-minute second half. I have Edgerrin Cooper, and this is an interesting one because I'm not sure how many would have gone this route, but Cooper is such a good blitzer from the off-ball linebacker position. He's fast. He's explosive. He takes good angles, his run and chase ability. I like everything about his game, how it profiles to the flag football stage. In fact, I like that more than running with just like a high-profile name like an Aiden Hutchinson or a Myles Garrett, because I think he's going to have more speed at that stage of his career in 2028. Very young guy, just coming off his rookie season. He'll be able to chase down any quarterback from any opposing offense.
It's a good call. I do always wonder about guys like Max Crosby or any of those elite guys, because Myles Garrett, just because the size of those guys, while they might not be as
Put
elusive,
that wingspan up, yeah.
You put the wingspan up. I'm like, get an NBA guy. You can't use Giannis because he's Greek, but give me an NBA guy just to rush and throw his 7'2" arms up there trying to knock a pass down. I feel like, Chet Holmgren. Get Chet Holmgren out there.
Now, for what it's worth, I think that Edgerrin Cooper has like 34.5-inch arms, so he's got a wing on him too. But no, I get what you're saying for sure. That added size, if you can disrupt passing lanes, that goes a long way in flag league too. So I think it's definitely something to consider. My thought process was first just like, give me the guy that's going to get there the fastest, who, if the quarterback changes direction, he can break down, has the discipline to take those angles. And so I went with Edgerrin Cooper as the guy to spell Parsons. And if you want another one, here's another just like off the wall selection. Steelers fan here, so call me biased if you will. Peyton Wilson, you going back to his NC State day, it's like, he is a terrific athlete. He's 6'4", and so he can just disrupt those lanes a little bit. He knows how to break down. He knows, I mean, he's a terrific tackler. So I don't think grabbing the flag would be an issue. 4.43 speed at the NFL Combine. Give me the guys that can get there in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah. Defensive backs. Who you got?
So I went with 3, and this is where I reserved my last spots. And now, again, from playing flag football, what is the hardest thing to do? It's to stop the opposing offenses. This is an offense-driven game. And so if you're able to get a few stops, keep the other team out of the end zone a few times, that could be the difference in the game. And so I've got 3 cornerbacks here. I had no true safeties, just because I feel like if you want to switch it up between man and zone, corners can do that at high level as anybody. And the cornerbacks that I picked, the first 2 won't surprise you. The third might. I have Pat Surtain, defensive player of the year, obvious reason, still going to be in the prime of his career. Very well-rounded, can cover the opposing team's biggest receiver with his length as well. I've got Derek Stingley, who is surprisingly still just 23 years old. I haven't even hit his 24th birthday yet. Excellent football player. Best football still ahead of him. Tremendous speed as well. And then my third one was a candidate for Defensive Rookie of the Year, had a huge player in the Super Bowl, Cooper DeJean, who can cover the slot already like nobody's business. I can use him on offense because he's got fantastic ball skills as well. So those would be my 3 defensive backs that I would go with.
Yeah, I like all 3. And actually, I had been thinking about Cooper DeJean as well, just because what he can do in the slot. And again, I think you're right. He could play both sides. I don't know if you go more wide receiver or cornerback, like in general, when you're doing this, because I think, again, defense is going to be harder to begin with. Offense is always going to have an advantage. So do you want to try and bolster your defense with guys who can maybe be a little stickier than other dudes? That's really intriguing. Yeah, I like those 3 guys a lot.
I think it's a balance, right? Like, Sterling, you're probably near my age at least. Did you ever play the game ice hockey for like regular Nintendo growing up? Do you remember that game?
I don't think I
on that
did.
game, you could get the little skinny guys that were really fast, but they get pushed all over the place. You can get the medium guys that were medium speed, but you can push the little guys around, or you can get the big guys who can push anybody around, but weren't fast enough. And so I kind of sometimes I think of things in those video game examples, but for this, it's like if I only have defensive backs, I'm not going to probably get the explosion I need on offense. If I go with too many wide receivers, I'm not going to get guys that cover well enough. I think it's that blend. And I would honestly, because it is such an offense-driven league, I would almost be tempted to go more defensive, one more defensive back than I would receiver, because it's so important to stop the opposing offense.
Were there any other players you thought about that might not be, they didn't have to be big names, but they have such a unique skill set that you thought might translate? Any guy like, I know for the Steelers, let's say Darnell Washington, who's like, 6'8". You're like, yeah, maybe I could throw him there in the red zone and see what he could do. Were there any names like that? Any particular skill set that you thought about?
Yeah, surprisingly, that one wasn't one that crossed my mind, but man, you talk about disrupting passing lanes or getting him a jump ball in the end zone. No, I mean, there are definitely guys. I think Devin Achane would be one if you wanted to go a different route. And let's say that the top running backs weren't available, they opted out, whatever. You get a guy with just lightning speed. You put him on an end around, whatever. Good luck with that. I think some of the smaller guys, honestly, and some of the smaller, shiftier guys in the NFL, the Tank Dells, the Calvin Austins, the Xavier Worthies, the guys who can operate in space, and you don't necessarily need a ton of size as a flag player, because you can't really box out and do a lot of things that you would do in padded football. And so I think going with some of those guys, I think would make it for an intriguing game.
Devin Hester, Dante Hall, Ted Ginn Jr., they all are kicking themselves right now for not being younger.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys may have been the 3 best ever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Fantastic.
I think that'd be if you do a historic all-time who would be the best,
man.
I think you can't have it without Dante. Again, you want some of those smaller guys, those shifty guys.
Percy Harvin, Devin Hester, you said it. So, yeah.
Well, Tommy, I like this. This is a fun exercise. We went through the updates in the NFL. Tommy Jaggi, you can follow him on Twitter, on the X at Tommy Jaggi, myself at Homestretch KC. This was Stacking the Box. Until next time, we are out.